Fossil Production. Fossil Pride.
Community Talk family, how you doing? It's your guy Sloan Griffin here with another episode. We're gonna have a good, candid conversation here. You all that are in the Northeast Richland County corridor, you got several important races coming up that are runoff races, and we want to make sure that you all come back out to the polls. I want to do my part to make sure that you all come out to the polls on Tuesday, June the 23rd. Come out to the polls. Polls will be open 12 hours. Get out there. We seen what happened last time. Get out there to the polls and show up and represent again. But as you've seen from the headlines on today's show, we got a very important special guest, a good brother of mine. We're so much alike in so many different ways. I had to get him and plug him into the show today. to get them out here to let you all know how important this race is. And then for, two fathers to have this candid conversation today on a very important day, Father's Day, here. So without further ado, before I bring him on, I'm going to run a clip. So when you come back, we're going to have Mr. Hamilton Grant on with us this evening, District 8, Richland County Council candidate. Let's get out there. Let's show up at the polls and represent him and bring this win on in. So we'll see you shortly with Mr. Hamilton Grant.
Are you sick and tired of the problems with Richland County government? I'm Hamilton Grant, and I, like you, am tired of these headlines. On Tuesday, June 9th, voters had their rights trampled on. Enough is enough, and it's time for new and bold leadership on County Council. I'm running because I know we can do better, and you deserve better. Vote for a candidate to shake up the status quo. I'm Hamilton Grant, and I hope I can have your support in the June 23rd runoff for Richland County Council District 8.
My guy, Mr. Hamilton Grant.
What's going on?
Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Councilman. Happy Father's Day.
Hey, happy Father's Day to you too. We're celebrating on so many different avenues. You, like myself, first time dad. We dada. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm blessed. It is our first Father's Day, so it's a blessing to celebrate with our families. It's a little weird getting Father's Day text messages versus having to send them out to everybody and being on the receiving end. But nevertheless, it's a great feeling. And happy Father's Day to all the dads that are watching and viewing with us this afternoon.
Yep. Thank you, sir. And likewise to all the special dads out there, happy Father's Day. Continue to do what we do, stay strong for our children and families, and keep that household straight. So, Richland County Council.
Yes.
District 8.
Yes.
So last the 9th, the election that sparked the runoff election for you and several other candidates out there. Let's first off, let's give my viewers a chance before we dive into that talk, because I do want to talk about some of those issues at the poll and get your take on it. But let's talk with the viewers here, and let's let them know a little bit about who Hamilton Grant.
Sure, most definitely. And again, thank you for having me on this platform. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Hamilton Grant, candidate for Richland County Council District 8. I am running for the very community and the very district that I was raised in. So this particular race is very, very personal for me. I am running because I want to be the change that I want to see. I would be naive and remiss if we do not highlight what we see going on across the country. And oftentimes when these incidents happen on a cycle, we're poised with the question, what do we do, or how do we fix this? There are many answers, but I think my answer and my call is to run for public office in this particular seat. I think that having people at the seat of decision making to provide a systemic change to policy and how we are governed, I think is one solution to many solutions to help bring about progressive change. When you look at all the things that are happening within our county on a local basis, these elections are more important now than ever. So it is time to elect good people who understand how to address problems, who understand what it takes to bring people together to elect them to these seats. Because if we don't, I think we'll miss a huge opportunity.
Yeah, you said a mouthful there, and I concur. That's the reason I've done it. To step up and represent for the people out here in Richland County as best as I possibly can. Now, voter turnout at the polls, in my opinion, was very historic here in Richland County, with folks still waiting in line. I got a report like 11 o'clock, people were still in lines in some precinct areas here in the county. I do want to get your take, because I admire how you really stepped out and was vocal about the hiccups of the election commission and some of those things that failed our system. I think I read a quote from you that said it was a miscarriage of the system. So I want to just kind of talk a little bit about that and get your feel on where do we need to go as far as voting in 2020 in this new age with so much technology. Why are we having so many issues with the analog voting system out here?
Sure. So, what the things that could go wrong on June 9th did go wrong. My day started out very early. My wife and I wanted to bring our son to the voting booth with them to have this special moment. So we were one of the ones, just like a lot of people, lined up at 7 a.m. When we arrived to North Springs Community Center, we observed the long lines, which we were encouraged by because that said turnout was going to be historic. South Carolina already saw prior to that week a request of over 200,000 mail-in absentee ballots across the state and more than 20,000 across the county. So we knew that that day was going to be special. However, we didn't know the hiccups that would occur along the way that would make it special for a wrong reason. So we ended up voting, and the first time I knew something was wrong was the couple that was in line in front of us. After they had voted, they waited outside for us to come in, and they said, "Hey, sir, my sister and I have lived in the same household for 20 years, same address. We live in District 9. However, your name was on her District 9 ballot and not mine. Is that an issue?" Immediately, that started setting off alarms, and that notified me that something was going on. Not soon after that, I had fraternity brothers calling me saying, "Hey, we went to vote for you at Dent Middle School. We know we live in District 8 and your name is not on the ballot." And call after call after call after text message after text message, DM, they all started to say the same. Your name and your race is really not on the ballot, and we know we live in District 8. My campaign team, we got together, started calling the interim director, Mr. Terry Graham, and notifying him of these instances. We must have called him probably about 5 times in an hour and a half. That's how bad it was. We even made the recommendation for the 2 most problematic precinct locations for our race, which was St. John Newman Catholic School and Dent Middle School, to switch to an emergency paper ballot system. Unfortunately, they did not take that recommendation. So I wanted to see for myself. We noticed at North Springs Community Center and North Springs Elementary School that there was mass confusion because people had not received their postcards telling them where their new voting location would be because they went out late. So you had people waiting in line at both precincts only to get to the front to be told you're supposed to be next door. So those were 2 big issues that I witnessed, on top of having an incorrect ballot at those 2 polling locations. I personally visited 5 out of the 9 polling locations from my district, but perhaps the most problematic and troubling thing that I witnessed happened at St. John Newman Catholic Church at that voting location. What I witnessed there, of course, getting reports that our election was not on the ballot as a candidate and being permitted to, I was walking the lines and talking to voters. Campaign laws allow you to do that up to the door. So that's where I was. And so every time there was a new group of voters coming up to the door, I said, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you are voting in the Richland County Council District 8 seat, please double check your ballot to make sure that everybody that is supposed to be on that ballot is on that ballot. I'm receiving reports from different precincts, but in particularly this one, that our election is not on the ballot. If this happens to you, please notify your poll worker. They're supposed to stop immediately and give you a provisional ballot." Councilman, not 10 minutes after I said that, 3 people came outside and said, "Hey, exactly what you said happened." And so I walked them inside to say, hey, they had issues with their ballot. They need a provisional ballot, only to be responded with the dismay and the disbelief of the poll worker telling the voters, "Hey, come back in November to where you can vote for everybody." On top of fighting against that system, we witnessed other candidates in my race take advantage of the stress of the poll workers by passing out literature outside closer than the 200 feet from the door law that is permitted. So for those watching, if you are 200 feet and further from the door, you are permitted to pass out campaign materials. However, once you get within that 200 feet, you have to discard of those materials. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Two, at the polling locations, they should have a marker that specifies that footage, beyond this point, such
So some did and some didn't.
Okay.
And that goes to the stress of the poll workers. But the disadvantage and the disingenuousness of it was that people were walking inside the polling booth with campaign material of my opponent and walking back out with that same campaign material in their hand, which of course is not permitted. We witnessed our opponent have people at the curbside lines at a particular precinct, standing over cars as they voted with the window down. We witnessed at one particular precinct, people walking up to the door and someone telling them, "Hey, you can't vote unless you have a mask on." So there were all kinds of factors of voter suppression that were systemic and man-made that we had to combat against. And, it's a miracle that we only came in second place by 225 votes. But nevertheless, we're here. And so once we did a deep dive analysis into the numbers, because I'm a businessman, I'm a numbers guy. I ran, District 8 has 19 precincts. I ran all 19 precincts when it came to the sheriff race, ran all 19 precincts when it came to the coroner's race, and all 19 when it came to our race. Councilman, you'll be amazed that 60% of the people who voted for a sheriff in my district did not vote for a councilman in my district. 60%.
Let me ask you, why do you think that is a 60%? What I would look at as a fail rate. They just came in, voted for sheriff, and walked back out.
Now, I attribute it to the election commission, whatever it was that they did or failed to prepare. Our election simply was just not on the ballot. So whether people wanted to vote for me, whether people wanted to vote for either of my opponents, that's the choice of the voter of Richland County for District 8. I completely respect that. That is your choice. However, if you are robbed of that choice, your rights and your voting opportunity is trampled on. That's why the entire situation on June 9th was a miscarriage. And so I truly believe that 60 percentile number is so high was because our election was not on the ballot. And what was troubling for me was that the biggest calls and the biggest problem districts that I were getting reports from were supporters of mine that I knew. I'm a graduate of Richland Northeast High School. Richland Northeast and Dent Middle School were both polling locations. Dent Middle School feeds directly into Richland Northeast. And I got calls all day about that. I grew up in the Spring Valley neighborhood. Spring Valley precinct was Spring Valley High School, as well as St. John Newman, another problem area. And so, when you witnessed and saw all of that, I just had to speak out. And I want people to understand and want everyone and the viewers to pay attention to who is speaking out on the issues that are important to the voters of Richland County. Again, some would argue that Hamilton is just speaking out because he came in second. That's not the case at all. I'm speaking out and representing for the rights and the views and the opportunities for the voters of Richland County, particularly in District 8. Because as a voter, you were robbed of your opportunity to pick the candidate of choice. Now, whether that candidate is me or whether that candidate is somebody else, that is our job as candidates, to spend the time and the effort and the resources to get our message and our appeal and plea out to you to vote for us. But at the end of the day, we can't press that button for you. We can only do it for ourselves. And when you don't have that opportunity, then there's a trample of justice. And as someone who is trained to be a leader and not a follower, it was only natural for not only me to speak out, but for me to call for results.
Yeah, so I do want to go back to something you said, and I wrote down some notes. Let's talk about the issues, that Richland County or District 8. Let's look at District 8, and then we'll go out to the county because I do want to add the penny tax conversation in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what are some of the issues that you think District 8 face moving forward? In the coming term.
Well, you hit on the main one, which is the penny sales tax program. The penny, as many of your viewers are aware, and I'm sorry for the history, for the context. In 2008, County Council wanted to put together a program that says for every dollar that comes into Richland County, we'll tax a penny to go to greenways and road projects. In 2008, that failed. That same referendum came back up in 2012 and passed. And so since 2012 to now, we've unfortunately seen headline after headline after headline that has been negative about the penny program. I will go on record in saying that Richland County needed the penny program. Richland County would not be where it is without the penny. However, and this is a big however, I believe the slip up took place in how it was managed. And I want to caution the viewers that any candidate that says they know exactly what happened and what went wrong with the penny is lying to you. Here's why they're lying to you. The Department of Revenue, State Department of Revenue has a lawsuit and litigation out with the county to where county council members had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to where they cannot talk about what exactly happened. So really everything is not necessarily speculation, but we're only given a limited scope and a limited view into what happened with the penny because there's so much that went wrong that is tied up in litigation. And so when you look at what's going on and how we need transparency on all fronts when it comes to the penny, I think these issues and where we went wrong should be put into the public's hands. The reason I say that is because when people have confidence in the system and understand that, hey, no one is perfect, you may have had a hiccup here or there. As long as you understand that you can fix it moving forward, that's where your trust comes in.
Yep.
Richland County is the second largest county in the state of South Carolina and continues to grow, especially on my side of town on Hardscrabble Road, where we got hundreds of homes going up, but you got 2-lane highway. You got one going north, one going south. And common sense tells you as you build more homes, you need to build more roads. And so as we continue to see this growth, we may have to revisit something like this in the future. That's why it's vital that we get this right now. So when we come back in the future and have to ask the taxpayer for more money, it'll be an easy, hey, we trust you versus we don't want the nightmares of what happened yesterday.
Yeah, and that's true. Speaking of Hardscrabble Road, that's still some uncompleted because they went down Hardscrabble Road in the midst of construction, and it's just failed. It's sitting there, it's idle. I guess
so these projects are years. They are years behind schedule. Council came together probably about a month ago and decided to revise some of these projects, which we have called for. My campaign has called for since day one. Being on a board of trustees at a HBCU, my alma mater, South Carolina State University, we firmly understand the word efficiency, right? Doing more with less. And so sometimes we have to measure twice to cut once. And so in doing so, that gives me the unique experience for looking at issues and looking at budgetary items when it comes to projects to say, how can we get the maximum output with minimum input? And so looking at how revising some of these projects so that things that are priority, like widening streets, can happen while coming under budget, not just on budget, but under budget and on time. And council came together probably about a month ago to make these revisions and make these corrections to do so, which is something we're pleased about because we called for it. However, these things are behind schedule. At one point, they were $148 million over budget, 3 years behind schedule.
Yeah, and that's not what we want with our hard-earned working money. That's our money that's just gone. It's like flying
Absolutely.
over in an airplane and just sprinkling it out over the landscape as you go. But I do want to, dive just a little bit deeper into some of the other issues out there. We got traffic issues, but those are long-term projects. Those are not overnighted projects. But we are having a rapid boom in growth, just like here in the Blythewood area. We're seeing neighborhoods go up overnight. We're seeing neighborhoods that project 500-600 homes
Yeah.
going up in them. And so these are little cities
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
sprouting up all over, from the backside of our area that's bordering up to your district. So I want to get your take on smart growth. Controlling some of the growth to allow the infrastructure to kind of catch up. Just kind of pick your mind a little bit on that piece there.
Yeah, so for far too long, we've put the cart before the horse. We've put up homes. We've created these small cities, as you say, but yet there's no infrastructure that speaks to it. I think the fact that Richland County lacks a strategic plan
Yeah,
may be part of the issue, because if you have a strategic plan, you can project where you want to see your county in the next 5 to 10 years and revise that plan as the time goes along. And so, when growing and seeing the growth that we're seeing, you just have to plan for it accordingly. The unfortunate matter is that we play catch up to all of that. So we have lots of residential neighborhoods, but there's a lack of business that comes in the county. And, making sure your economic infrastructure is sound is just as important as making sure that your physical road infrastructure is sound as well. Richland County is unattractive for a lot of businesses and industries to do business because the taxes are just way too high to do business here in Richland County. Councilman,
yeah,
I can't tell you how frustrated it has been as a millennial from here who loves this area, losing my peers and friends to other cities I know we can compete with.
yeah,
Other middle market cities that I know we are leaps and bounds ahead of, but because the job infrastructure is not in place for them to stay and it's not stable enough for them to start a family and raise a family, we're looked at as a transient area versus a permanent place. And so when we talk about growth and smart growth, it's really twofold. You have to have the physical infrastructure in place, but probably before that, you need to have the economic infrastructure in place.
yeah.
Both go hand in hand, and they're synonymous.
Yeah. So, you talk about economic placement. We here in Blythewood, we have the new area that's dedicated to the manufacturing growth boom that Richland County is projecting. So down the line, and we're looking at clean energy type deal in this joint venture because it's with us in Richland County. Let's talk about jobs. What's your outlook on bringing jobs in, technology jobs? We don't want dirty manufacturing. I heard that so many times.
Right.
But we want these technological jobs, these nice paying jobs. We don't want
Yeah.
minimum wage coming in. We want wages that allow us to live, to eat
Yeah.
and partake of this great county. So just give me your insight on some of that.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And again, it goes back to the point of making sure that the taxes are in place to make us attractive for these jobs. Richland County has lost jobs in the last couple of years. In fact, the only industry that has grown is the hospitality industry. That is why there is such a heavy emphasis on hospitality, hotels popping up left and right downtown, and discussions of expanding the convention center. So when you look at jobs and these tech jobs and these in industries and businesses that will keep people here, that's what you want to do. You want to keep these students who go to Allen, Benedict, Columbia College, University of South Carolina, Midlands Tech. You want to keep them here because this is your homegrown talent. Whether they are from here or whether they're not, they invested at least 2 years by going to school there. And so in order for you to get your return on investment, you
There
need
you
to
go.
keep them here. One of the conversations we have amongst higher academia and higher ed is, where do we draw the line with out-of-state students? Because
Yeah.
if we give discounts to out-of-state students and they leave, we never get our return on interest, in return on investment, excuse me. And that's the same thing here when it comes to jobs. We have
Yep.
to get our return on investment, which means we have to bring jobs here. Not only do we have to bring jobs here, but Councilman, we have to make sure that our lifestyles are such to where entertainment and
Yep.
all that comes with it on the weekend is in place as well. It makes no sense to have good jobs, but yet I'm gonna go to Charlotte or Atlanta every
Yeah.
weekend to spend my hard-earned money because there's nothing here. So
Yeah.
we have to look at hospitality, we have to look at the restaurant industry, the entertainment industry, as well as looking at how we bring in these high-tech businesses and these white-collar jobs. Because
Yes.
the fact of the matter is, when you have all of these jobs and all of these businesses and all of these industries in place, it only makes Richland County more attractive for more people to come in.
Yeah.
The more industries you have like that, the more people or industries you can tax, which means the less taxes you pay as a resident
There you
for
go.
your school districts.
Yep.
And then your school districts get funded at a better rate and a better
Yep.
amount, which opens the door for more things. And so I think it's a good thing to have these industries, but we can't do anything as long as our taxes are where they are.
Yeah. So before we get into the next topic, I'm going to take a quick pause break here for 60 seconds there. Get you some water. I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about some crime rate,
Yeah.
and talk about, what we need to do as brothers and sisters out here to really get behind some of the fixes and fix some of these issues that are out here. So to my community talk family, we'll be right back. We're going to hear a message from Gretchen Berry from yesterday on the other side of my brother Hamilton Grant's district over there. So she's in the runoff. We're going to pause for 60 seconds. We'll be right back with you. Thank you all. We'll be right back.
All right, so it's a bittersweet moment, but this is our last corner wave of this campaign. They even got music over here, so we're celebrating. We're celebrating, we're counting for a win on Tuesday, June the 23rd. It's a runoff election, and we need your support. Just like our volunteers have come out every weekend, even in a pandemic, they've showed up for me, supported me. I want to show up for you on county council. I need you to show up on Tuesday at the polls. It's 7 to 7, the same precincts that we had before. On June the 9th, you'll go there. Absentee voting is about to close for today at 2020 Hampton Street, but you can go Monday. You can beat the crowds, go Monday, 2020 Hampton Street. Okay, so I just wanted to come on. I got out here and the energy was so great on Killian Road. So if you're in the area, stop by, blow the horn. We're out here, we're celebrating, all right? Y'all have a great Saturday. Let's go, Team Barron. I'm Gretchen Barron, your candidate for Richland County Council District 7. We're gonna get a win on Tuesday, runoff election. Let's do this.
All right, my brother, welcome back to Community Talk, everybody. Yep, that was just a quick message there from Gretchen Berry on the other
I
side
actually
of
saw her
District
on
2.
Killing Road yesterday.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, they were hyped on Killian yesterday. So
They
big
were.
shout outs to her. Yeah, y'all get out, support her on the other side of District 2 over there. I'm sorry, District 7. Y'all get out over there and give her the same support you're going to bring to Mr. Hamilton Grant here. So we're back. Let's dive in here for a second and talk about crime. There's so many statistics and if you look at one book, it says that we as African Americans, we bring in the crime rate. It's in our neighborhoods, and you look at another statistic, it's the other way around. It's so many stereotypes out there, but we do have an issue with crime as in our communities, and I want to get your feel on fixing some of the crime issues and assisting the sheriff's department is where they need funding.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, regardless of what community you refer to, crime affects everybody.
Yep.
The stereotype and the narrative that a single race has crime against itself really is dispelled because people commit crimes amongst the environment in which they're in. And so when you look at that myth, so to speak, in particular, when folks talk about black on black crime, that's exactly what you have. Unfortunately, crime affects everybody. In my family, it hits personal. As some may know, my wife's grandfather was killed in the Mother Emanuel tragedy, in which we just memorialized 5 years this past week. So we know firsthand on how it can affect a family and how it could change your very way of life. And so when we look at the community involvement and really what it means with keeping each other safe, we have to build more bridges of understanding and communication. Councilman, one of the things that I did about 3 years ago, when we found ourselves again enamored in the question of what do we do now after another innocent, unarmed African American was killed and we had to watch it. I said, hey, I want to be part of the solution again. And so what I did, I got with Deputy Chief Melron Kelly with the City of Columbia Police Department, and we had a candid and open conversation at a bar and lounge. So we brought that conversation to the people, so the people could feel they can feel comfortable enough to ask the questions and really hold law enforcement accountable. And then on the flip side, allow law enforcement to say, these are some of the things we're doing. And if you really don't like what you're seeing, help us recruit good law enforcement officers. So, working with law enforcement, whether it be the city, whether it be the sheriff, been on numerous amount of panel discussions with the sheriff's office. In fact, my grandfather helped put together the citizen review board with Richland County Sheriff Department when Sheriff Lott was first voted in office years ago. And so, having these relationships and having the opportunity to sit down with the people who make the decisions, but not only that, bring the community to the table with us, is something that I think has to yield results. Anybody who considers themselves a leader, whether it's with a title or without a title, should take an invested stake in their community.
Yeah. So that we had the Black Lives Matter protests, and raising the issues. But one thing, I was talking to a couple brothers of mine, and I put this in their heads, and I say, what's different about George Floyd's death is that for the first time, America really witnessed a recording to watch someone die. They literally sat there and watched for 9 minutes life leave a Black man. And I think that really has struck the match in America, not just Black support, but amongst everybody, to see something so cruel in nature happen. And it appeared that, it was just going to be shook off and life moves on. But to witness protest in our city, to voice those opinions about law enforcement and how to correct it, and then protest to turn to riot, looting, and other things. So I want to get your take on some of that in the community that happened here a couple weeks ago, and some of the things that you're working on to bridge some of those gaps.
Yeah, so if I could respectfully push back on one of the things that you said when we this Mr. Floyd, us being the first time watching him, I think we really have to look back at all of the other cases and all of the other names because we've all seen it. I think what was extremely different this time is every other time people put their faith in the judicial system looking for justice, and time again, justice was denied
Yep.
by lack of accountability. And I think what makes this situation different is that people are not going to wait for the justice for us to I guess hold someone accountable. We're going to do that now,
Yep.
which is what you're seeing spark and create a groundswell across the country. I'm all for peaceful protests. I'm all for rallies, peaceful rallies. I'm all for peaceful marches. I do not believe in rioting and looting. However, I think that people have to really take a deep understanding and a dive behind how that is happening. One of the myths and one of the stereotypical things when all of this stuff happens is that African Americans go out and loot and tear down their own community, when you really have to look at the history of America, in that African Americans who participate in rioting and looting are only doing what was taught. When you look at the Boston Tea Party, that was an entire riot and protest in and of itself.
Hey,
So this
check
is
it out. What about the hockey games?
so this
The
is
World
nothing
Cup.
new.
Yeah.
Right. This is nothing new. In fact, I was talking with State Representative Ivory Thigpen not too long ago, and we were having this conversation that if you find yourself and call yourself a Christian, if you are not Catholic, if you are Baptist, AME, Presbyterian, you're considered a Protestant. And those churches were formed out of protest. That's the root word of Protestant. And so, things in America have not come easy, but by protesting, but by marching. But I think when things escalate and turn violent, then it's never good. The message gets lost. And what we saw happen a few weeks ago locally, I think, is a frustration towards a national industry or a national organization, i.e., law enforcement. And because people don't understand how to channel their emotions for change, took it out on local officials. I think although there is a national issue with policing that should be addressed on a national scale, that's why President Obama put forth that plan, so it can be universal. I do believe that incidents happen certain places you cannot hold your local law enforcement accountable for. Even though there are issues across the board, Richland County is not Minneapolis. And so whenever these things happen or when they don't happen, we have to form a proactive approach and line of communication with not just law enforcement. You got to bring your pastors, your principals, your neighborhood association leaders, your elected officials, your activists. You have to bring everybody to the table so that you can have a conversation, and not only a conversation, have relationships, because relationships matters when these things happen. If God forbid something like that were to happen here, it would be hard for someone to try to do what it is they need to correct the situation without the proper relationships with the community.
Yeah, and I do think, here in Richland County, as well as the city of Columbia and other municipalities around us, I do think, we have a great open door relationship with law enforcement to come in to have these tough conversations, and we're smart. We're smart to look at what's going on nationally to bring it back, and let's go ahead and have this conversation. Let's go ahead and get these advanced trainings up to par. Let's build on community policing, So I do commend our sheriff, as well as the leadership in the city of Columbia, for stepping up way before we ever have an issue, and addressing those issues appropriately. So I do appreciate that.
And Councilman, if I may, while we're talking on community safety, we would be remiss if we did not recognize that we're still in a global health pandemic.
That was my next question. You got me.
And so while we talk about law enforcement and the systemic issues that plague law enforcement, particularly with people of color, we must recognize where we are in society when it comes to COVID-19. Every day last week, South Carolina set a record of new cases.
Yeah.
Now, that is because we are testing at a higher rate,
Yes.
finally. However, you should not look at the test numbers. You should look at the percentage of increased positive cases, which
Yes.
continues to climb exponentially. And so, there's nothing we could do since the state is being reopened back up. Um, and when the state reopens back up, people have to leave and go to work.
Yep.
However, I think local municipalities and local governments have a role to play. So in Richland County, if we are going to open back up businesses, one, I think Richland County should help provide PPEs for all small businesses. Another thing that I think Richland County should do is provide county-wide testing.
Yes.
Our local officials, our local elected officials, from state representatives to state senators are doing a great job with partnering
Yep.
with MUSC. But I think that we should have designated places throughout the county that are countywide COVID-19 testing sites on a daily basis, not just on 3 days during the week, and we'll have another one in 2 weeks. And so your local government has a role to play in keeping you safe. And so, I want us all to be cognizant of all of that. Make sure you're wearing your mask, because
Yes.
I'm getting disappointed with going out and seeing people not wearing their mask and letting their guard down and becoming comfortable. And especially to my peers, my fellow millennials. And if you don't believe it, my good friend Representative Canberra Gardner
Yep.
said that he tested positive for COVID-19. I've got a good friend in Harlem, New York, who is probably about 29, had a real fight with COVID-19 for about 3 weeks, and is doing way better now. So don't think you're immune to it. Don't think it's just a boomer disease, so to speak. I mean, it doesn't discriminate, especially if you're a person of color.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like I said, COVID-19 was going to be my next conversation piece. Yeah, and I do agree. One thing that as a elected official, I done here in Blythewood was provide PPE week. So I had 7 days where we provided PPE to the residents of Blythewood, to include hand sanitizer. So you could come get you 2 masks, gloves, and refill your personal bottles of hand sanitizer. And we went, we used 20 gallons of hand sanitizer in 7 days. That was
Wow.
refilling 2-ounce to 6-ounce bottles. And we gave out over 2,300 masks in 7 days.
Wow.
And that was just doing normal business hours at part-time staff in the park. As you drive up, you didn't have to get out your car. Just drive up, roll the windows down. They came to you. They had masks on, and they went to work for you. And I'm looking at doing that again. I'm also, as of tomorrow, providing PPE to the Chamber of Commerce up here to divvy out to the local business industry, as well as hand sanitizer. So you're absolutely correct on that. That we, as elected officials, we have to do our part to help provide some of the goods for safety. We're obligated to a certain degree to do that, because I know we're looking at even City of Columbia has an ordinance that I think they're examining, and I'm looking at my notes for tomorrow night's council meeting, to where they are looking at enacting an ordinance saying it's mandatory to wear a mask. And we're shopping that also here, but when we go that route, yes, we have a role, and we must step up to the plate and provide those goods. And yes, to the people out there, take all this serious. I have friends that have it currently or have had it. Take it serious. It can affect all of us. And then, too, we have to also take care of ourselves. Talking with the wellness coach yesterday, and I'm going to have her on the show in July to talk about the immune support, building your immune system up. Because although COVID is out there, we got to take care of our bodies. We got to take care of what God gave us. I agree, sir. We have to do our
And
part.
you hit on a very topic that I'm really passionate about, and something that has been on my platform since day one, when dealing with our lifestyles and wellness, is addressing food deserts and food insecurities. In Richland County, over 65,000 residents do not have access to healthy and affordable food options. And in the 29203 zip code, that zip code leads the nation with the most amount of diabetic amputees. And so when you look at all of that, that all adds back to healthcare disparagement and how you can have access to these healthy and affordable food options. And so one of my top priorities is trying to address this to curb this statistic here in Richland County. One of the things that we can do is have someone who's already on staff be made aware of what food deserts and food insecurities are. To City of Columbia's credit, they've already created the blueprint and the format with putting a commission together. There's no reason why Richland County cannot work with the City of Columbia in addressing this, because it certainly isn't just a Columbia issue, it's a Richland County issue. And I think a lot of times, Councilman, we build these walls of territory and district and municipality and forget that we cross these lines every single day, whether it's to go to work or to go to home. And so making sure that we have synergy and making sure that we can work together to create impactful solutions only strengthens us in the long run.
Yeah. And I agree. And I look forward to working with you on those very issues every day, and whatnot. So I know today is Father's Day, and I want to make sure we get you and I back to our prospective families and celebrate the rest of this evening. But I do want to tell you thank you for what you do. Thank you for sticking out in that fight in the ninth inning. And Tuesday, I'm sure you're going to knock it out the park. And I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. At this time, I do want to turn it over to you. I want to give you the opportunity to talk to the viewers out there, let them know who you are, what you're about, and what you're planning to do for the future of Richland County. Happy Father's Day to you and your little guy.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yes, sir. Be safe out there, and my phone line is open to you anytime. Feel free to. Yep. Thank you, sir. So to my community talk family, it's been nice talking with you all again. We will do a special edition episode on Tuesday, and we'll watch some of the elections. We'll reach out to Mr. Hamilton Grant during the night to check in on him, as well as Gretchen Berry. We will show at least for 30 to 40 minutes on election night to show our love to these candidates. Remember, get out, vote. Get out and vote. Let your voice be heard by your vote. Let's fix this problem while we got it in our hands to fix with great candidates. So as I leave you with this. If you be good to God, then God will be good to you. I love each and every one of you. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hamilton Grant. He's going to close out my show. Be safe, and we'll see you all next time.
Well, thank you, Councilman, for the opportunity to speak with your viewers. And I'll simply end by telling a short story. There's a story documented in the Wall Street Journal of two friends in India who came together over a common denominator, which is service. The two friends, one who was a fishmonger and one who was a used car salesman, who did not know each other prior to meeting each other, came together to identify a solution to a problem that was killing the people of the local residents in that area of India, which was potholes. So what the two gentlemen did, they would go out together and traverse the city to find the potholes. One would hold up traffic while the other would crush debris to fill the gap and to fill the void. And once that was completed, both stepped to the side to see how their work would fare out. While many of us may have never ever go to India or may never have the chance to see India, we don't have to go far from Richland County to understand metaphorically that we have potholes here in the area. When over 65,000 residents of Richland County don't have access to affordable and healthy food options, we've got potholes. When kids are sent home from their school districts with tablets and laptops because of COVID-19, however, their household does not have internet access, we've got potholes. When we're paying tax dollar money to go towards our roads, yet all we see are dirt and no construction, we've got potholes. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I, like the two friends, are asking you to help me fix these potholes. The one thing that I love so much about that story is that one person could not do it alone. It was a team effort. So, ladies and gentlemen of Richland County, and particularly of those of District 8, I need your support. I need you to be that other friend to assist me with this service project of helping fix the potholes here in Richland County, metaphorically and physically. If you want to learn more about our campaign and connect with us, please follow us on all social media outlets at grantforsc.com, or you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at grantforsc. Again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you all. I look forward to seeing you in the election and on the polls Tuesday, June 23rd. And tomorrow, you can vote absentee in person at 2020 Hampton Street up till 5 o'clock. Please stay vigilant at the polls. If something goes wrong, please alert your poll watcher. And if something goes wrong and they cannot fix it, ask for the poll and the voter protection hotline, which they have to provide for you. Again, my name is Hamilton Grant, candidate for Richland County Council, District 8, and it's been beyond an honor to speak with you this afternoon. Thank y'all.